Hello, my name's Dr Michele McDowell and I am an educational and child psychologist. In today's webinar, I'm going to be discussing how do we raise emotionally sound children whilst helping them navigate their way around the inescapable attraction and necessity of the digital world. And how do we empower our children to make the right choices whilst using the internet safely? I do hope you're able to join me and I do hope you find it useful.
Good afternoon. My name is Mieve Daru and I am the CEO of Brilliant Parents. Welcome to another Lunch and Learn webinar entitled The Digital World for Teenagers, courtesy of the London Borough of Hillingdon. For those of you who are not familiar with us, Brilliant Parents is a charity whose aim is to support parents and carers with their children's emotional and behavioural needs. We believe that parenting is the most important job there is, and therefore we feel it's only right that parents receive support to increase their competence and confidence regarding their parenting skills. Today's topic was chosen from a consultation we had with our parents, and it doesn't surprise me in the least that the internet and the digital world came up as one of the top 5 topics that were requested. I'm confident that you're going to find today's webinar not only informative, but leave you feeling empowered. So for the next hour, we're going to hear from our speaker, Dr. Michele McDowell, and we're going to give you the opportunity to ask us some questions. So please feel free to pop your questions at the bottom of your screen. We'd like this to be as interactive as possible. And if we do run out of time and Michele isn't able to answer all your questions, she has said that we can circulate the answers after the session. So, and then we will end with a poll just to kind of get a sense of what you thought of today's webinar. So that just leaves me to introduce Michele. Michele is an educational and child psychologist. She specializes with working with parents of children who experience problematic gaming and addictive screen time. And basically she addresses all things which relate to mental health and child development. So I hope you have pen and paper to the ready because I think we're all going to need it. Over to you, Michele.
Thanks so much for that wonderful introduction. So, as Mieve has said, first of all, I'd like to thank Mieve and the Brilliant Parenting team for allowing me to come along today and speak about a topic that is so close to my heart and I'm very passionate about, the digital world for teenagers. I'm really, really excited to be taking part in this parenting workshop and this webinar. So like Mieve says, I'm an educational and child psychologist. I've been doing this for more years than I'd like to remember. But one of the things that has kept me inspired really about psychology is the change and the change in supports that I can offer to young people and their parents. So as we think about, as we think about technology, and in this changing world, that's just the first slide, sorry about that. We're thinking about technology in this changing world. I call it the wild, wild west of digital media. My goodness, I think if you're like me, a parent, you are used to seeing any one of these symbols here and having our young people speak about them. And what a change we've been through in the last, I'd say, 20 years it's been, hasn't it? Technology has absolutely revolutionized our household, hasn't it? I can imagine that I've got parents here nodding away. If you're in your 40s or 50s like me, it feels like there's been a complete revolution. A complete revolution here. So in the last 50 years, we've seen so much change. It almost feels like we've moved from a whole different age, doesn't it? If it's not bigger and more exciting TVs that can tell us what we're doing, more than we can tell them what they're doing. And mobile phones, they've completely revolutionized our lives and our young people's lives. I mean, on a day-to-day basis, I see young people that are so engaged with their phone, they can't look up for, if the world was on fire, they wouldn't be able to see what was going on, because it's almost like their best friend now, isn't it, the mobile phone? And game consoles. I'd be very surprised if I would be in a house now with a teen or tween that doesn't have a game console. And as exciting as they can be for the young person and adults in the house, it's also quite difficult, isn't it? Because game consoles tend to really impact on the conversations that we would be having on a day-to-day basis and impact on our own family time. So although they can be really enjoyable and are very much part of our lives now, they do very much impact on the quality of our life as well. And computers. What would we do without them? We literally live our lives on computers now, don't we? Whether it's communicating with others, socializing, working, and especially after the pandemic, I think computers have now been very much a stronghold in all of our lives. And again, the tablet. So if we haven't got our computers on, we're definitely backing up with having the tablet that we walk around and are indeed mobile with in our homes. So there we have it. We have touched on the technology revolution, and our lives will never, ever be the same again. Indeed, there are generations now that will be growing up never knowing what it was like to not have technology in their lives. And isn't that a familiar picture? Again, I can imagine that most parents are nodding away like that, and this is a common theme, isn't it? And a common picture in most households. And as I've said earlier, technology is now very much a part of our lives. If we look at the screen to the right of me, it's nearly 100% of individuals in the Western world now own a mobile phone, closely followed by the smartphone. So it's very much integral and a part of our lives. We can't run away from it anymore. What we need to do is learn how to navigate it. And hopefully, during this presentation and webinar, you'll find ways of supporting your young person with navigating the technology and the technological world. So I've themed the presentation today around frequently asked questions. And the 5 most frequently asked questions that I face during my practice and working with parents and schools is this is one that I would say out of all the 5, that is the one that I'm asked about the most. It's a child's behavior towards gaming, and particularly aggressive behavior when they've been asked to stop gaming. So that's a common theme and a common question that I'm often asked from parents. Another one is, what do we do? Should the answer be to have a digital detox? How do we manage gaming and technology in our households? And how do we support our teens and tweens with that? Should we have a digital detox? And again, we'll speak about that today. A big question that's very concerning to parents and teachers and adults alike, really, is how do you keep your young person, your child, safe online? We only need to pick up a newspaper or listen to news stories to hear about the concern around young people's safety online and keeping them safe from predators, and adults that might not have their best interests in mind. Again, a big question is how much screen time is okay? Parents are often answering, is it an hour? Is it 2 hours? What is enough? Keen to know to support again the young person with being integrated into technology, but being safe and having a balanced life around that. Another one that comes up often is my child addicted to gaming? Are they addicted to screen time? Are they addicted to this tech or smartphones? So those are some of the questions, or 5 main questions that we will be answering today. And again, as Meva said, if there are any questions afterwards, I'm very happy to answer them. So when we're thinking about children's screen time behavior, and particularly gaming, and what causes them to be aggressive around gaming, really need to think about 2 things: what's happening externally and what's happening internally. Now, we'll start off with thinking about what happens externally for a young person. And one of the things that I often get parents to consider is, what do you think? What is the attraction to gaming? What excites them most about it? And it's an engaging and motivating way of encouraging you to take part and stay motivated within that. And what gaming companies have very cleverly done is designed it in such a way that you want to be engaged, you want to stay, it is exciting, and they are very interesting. And one of the theories that have underpinned their building and development of technology has been Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So ensuring that your young person feels safe online, that there's this social factor that's being taken care of, and their esteem needs are being supported as well. So what I'd like to do now is show you a video that explains indeed what Maslow's hierarchy of needs are, and then we'll think about how closely they are associated to the gaming world.
How do we become happy? A question that has been asked since the dawn of man, and answered by philosophers, gurus, and recently psychologists. One of them was Abraham Maslow, who formulated his hierarchy of needs, also known as Maslow's pyramid. What can we learn from this pyramid if we want to be happy? Maslow's pyramid is divided in 5 levels: physiological, safety, love and belonging, esteem, and self-actualization needs. Physiological needs are biological and physical requirements, like breathing, food, water, and sleep. When these needs are not fulfilled, they become the only thing we are preoccupied with. Safety needs are physical safety and needs for home, employment, income, and health. Without fulfillment of these needs, a person feels constantly insecure and unprotected. Love and belonging needs deal with our desires for good family relationships, friendships, and sexual intimacy. Without them, we might become depressed or experience loneliness. Esteem needs are needs like self-esteem, confidence, achievement, and respect by others. Self-actualization needs deal with creativity, spontaneity, and problem-solving. Self-actualizing people have a grounded sense of well-being and satisfaction, and a sense of awe, wonder, and gratitude about life. Maslow noted that his hierarchy is a general description. Levels are not fixed, and each need does not have to be fulfilled 100% to move to higher levels. So, how do we become happy? Maslow called the lower 4 levels deficiency needs. If we don't have them met, it influences our psychological health and obstructs our tendency for growth, autonomy, identity, and excellence. Fulfill your needs at all levels and become a truly happy person.
So there we have it. It has those hierarchy of needs. And how that's closely associated with gaming development is, let's say that the physiological needs are a given, but safety needs, when a young person's online, they feel safe. They're at home, number one, in their own environment that they're comfortable and safe in. But online as well, they feel safe in knowing and understanding the parameters of the game that they're playing. And they spend hours and hours learning that. So they feel very safe around their gaming environment. And again, indeed, their social needs are being met, aren't they? Because quite clearly they are developing social networks with their friends, with people online, and developing friendships over time. Often young people will start off with connecting with their peers and friends from school, and then that transitions perhaps and more dangerously and concerningly sometimes to people that they may know less online. As the games progress, and if you've played the game, you can see that you get motivated and excited, you've got a reward, and you want more and more of that. And some young people, even though they may not be the most social offline, become quite social online, or and build their esteem because they do so well within the games. So it can be esteem building for them as well. And then the last one is about being able to be as creative as you want to online and self-actualizing in that way. So the gaming companies have very, very skillfully supported all of those needs. So young people often feel that they are engaged with being with all of these needs when they're online. Flip over to the next slide. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, now let's think about what happens internally for gamers, and particularly teens when they're gaming. What happens is when we're having fun and engaging online and on screen, we often develop a neurotransmitter, a chemical, which is called dopamine in the brain. You're having fun online, you're engaging in the game, they're feeling a sense of pleasure from it. And you're, again, like I said in the last slide, you're constantly gaining these rewards. So, you're getting positive feedback. You've done so well. And you're experiencing this feeling of excitement and stimulation. And so the dopamine chemical is growing. It's this feel-good chemical. And who doesn't want to have this sense of feeling good? And you're getting this constant sense of reward. And then what that happens to that is you want more, of course, which means that you build more dopamine. Now, I'm not sure if you've seen these stories, but dopamine is one of those chemicals that's also formed if you are taking part in activities such as taking crack or cocaine, etc. So any of these drugs can also induce dopamine as a neurotransmitter in the brain, and the need for you to want more and more and more. So that's just one of the things that's happening in a young person's brain when they are gaming and when they're interacting online. Now, another thing that occurs, a factor that occurs when an adult is so upset or with their young person and is asking them to stop the game, is that they're so involved in this dopamine, and so involved in the game, so excited and feeling fulfilled by it. If you imagine they're on the screen, they're so engaged, and then a parent then says to them, actually stop. Or with some of the parents that I've worked with, what might happen is it's not even a verbal stop, but they might plug out the gaming console or remove the child from the room because they are perhaps tired and fed up of asking them to stop and they haven't. So what then happens is your child can go, or your young person can go into what we would call the fight or flight mode. And what happens there is, if we go and think about the brain for a while, we have different sections of the brain that do different things and send different messages. Now, part of that, a main part of that is the prefrontal cortex. And what that does, what the prefrontal cortex does, is gives us a chance to have our rational thinking. you know, what we're going to get for dinner, having this conversation, taking time to really think about and process what's happening on the, you know, our thinking part of our brain really is the prefrontal cortex. And what that needs is calm and time to process and think through things. Now, when our body isn't in the fight or flight mode, because remember, you just told your child to stop gaming, and they were very much in that process of being excited and part of the game. What happens is our body physiologically goes back to way thousands of years ago, where it's seeing a stressor. So you asking your child to stop is almost seen as this stressor, whereas physiologically they're saying, "Oh my goodness, there's a stress here. What do I do?" And another part of the brain then engages, which is called the amygdala. And what the amygdala does is shut down the thought processes, the emotional regulation of the prefrontal cortex, and says, right, you've got two choices. You either fight or run. You fight or flight. You know, there are some additional ones now, but for the purposes of this presentation, that's what's happening. Your young person is then thinking, or automatically, physiologically going into the process of fighting, which is where the aggression comes from. And on the slide on the right is just showing us some of the aspects and some of the changes that occur in the body when we're in the fight or flight mode. So you're just thinking your child is just being rude or not listening or disobedient, but these are the things that they almost can't help that are happening physiologically to the body. Now, what we really know about the prefrontal cortex is it doesn't fully develop until a young person is 25 years old. So even though we've got all of those processes of learning to self-regulate, to calm, and all of these things, the prefrontal cortex is still quite immature in a teen. So in a way, we're expecting them to do something that they haven't physically got the capability often to do. So really what we need to do is step in and support them with setting strategies, which we'll speak about in a minute. So these are about the physiological reactions that happen in the body as we're asking that young person to stop gaming. So what do we do? And what are the strategies that we can put in place to support them with this? Like I've alluded to in the past slides, what we need to do is build in some structure for young people around gaming. So perhaps for some of the parents here, particularly with teens, you've already initiated them having the game consoles. But what we need to do is go back and start with a gaming plan. So really thinking about as a family, how often it's okay for them to game on a regular basis. And you might well have adults in the family as well that are also gaming. And remember, young people are often modeling what we're doing. So really thinking about, is it realistic to say it's going to be 30 minutes once a week? If that's not realistic for your family, then really don't really even start with that. But think about setting a timetable for gaming on a regular basis, setting clear boundaries for when your young person can game, and sticking to that and trying to be consistent with those boundaries. And also, rather than just thinking about what they can't do, include them with what they can do as well. So when we're thinking about the aggression and the behavior towards the behavior once you've asked them to take away the gaming console, really think about what steps could you put in place to support them with warning them, if you like, about the timescale. So if you've already agreed that they can be on for an hour, let's say, I would say when there's 50 minutes to go, start counting down, start warning them. I'm going to warn you 10 minutes before that you've got 10 minutes to go, and then I'll warn you at 5 minutes. And then at 5 minutes, the agreed time, we are now going to step away from the game. Now, that might take a while to engage, but keep going with it and keep consistent with that process. So time away from the game, setting your program for when gaming occurs, and being clear about stepping away from the game console. That's question one. Now we're thinking about screen time, and the question that comes up often, which is, how much time on screen is enough time. Now, the real true response to that, real true answer is we don't know. There's not enough research out there at the moment to really indicate whether whether it's 1 hour or whether it's 20 hours. So what happened is professionals have a long time, over time have decided actually we can't leave parents just out there just thinking, well, we've got no clue, but we're just giving guidelines. And the sense is that 15 hours a day is obviously too long, whereas an hour or two a day feels that is more practical and approachable for most families. But what we do know is research is indicating the longer that that young people spend online, the more detrimental it can be for some areas, such as within mental health. As you can see from the diagram on the left, the longer a young person's online, the more likely it is that they'll have a sense of depression, anxiety, and sometimes self-harm, suicidal thoughts, and unfortunately sometimes suicide. So it really is a concern, but it's very difficult to give a ballpark figure for all children. And it's really about knowing your own child and really thinking about the family context and what would be helpful for them in terms of the times that you have online. So again, anywhere near the double figures, I would say, is far too much online on a regular basis, and closer to singular figures, and closer to maybe an hour to two per day. But again, if you're in a family where lots of people are around and spending different times on screen, you really want to think about how can you as a family negotiate how much time you spend on there. I say to parents often, it's not really about the time as much as it is about what we're doing on screen and what your young person is doing on screen and the impact that can have on their mental health. So things like cyberbullying are a real concern for young people online at the moment. And as we'll talk about later, child exploitation and criminal exploitation. Porn viewing is a considerable issue. Parents often will be concerned and be referred to me to discuss and speak about. And sexting. These are just some of the issues that constantly come up with regards to what young people are doing on screen. So first of all, if you think about pornography, which I know I can see there are lots of parents that are cringing at the thought of it. Often, parents come to me and are really unaware of number one, the young person's exposure to pornography, and then how much they have been engaged with it. So what research has shown us so far is the tool that's used most for pornography with young people is the phone engagement. So really think about that when you're beginning to have that discussion with your young person about having a phone. It really is that time that you should start thinking about the content and talking to them about the possible content that they will see online, and trying to find ways of engaging with them and communicating with them about porn as well as other content that they will be seeing online. Really, I'm speaking to lots of parents now that are concerned about when their child is not in their presence, what they're seeing online, and porn is a real concern. Not only that, but it's becoming the main form of sexual education for our young people. So what I often say to parents is, if we don't speak about it with them, they will be finding out about it in other areas. So really, it's really important that we have these talks. And of course, if you're feeling uncomfortable, seek help, seek support by parental groups like Brilliant Parents, and all professionals, but do have that talk. Another concern, one that comes up often, is sexting, which is, of course, sending sexual images. Again, some parents are surprised to know how frequent it is. In fact, I would say it's almost a normality for teens now, some form of sexting. So again, often parents cringe at this and don't want to hear about it, but it is a reality and something that we do really want to think about and talk about with our young people. Often sexting can be low risk, and I know parents will be at low risk, but often it is low risk because it's seen as low risk because they're sexting within relationships, within teen relationships, with somebody that they know and they dare I say trust to a certain extent. So that's viewed as a low risk communication of sexting, which is most common. However, there are high risk interactions with sexting, sorry. And these are when your young person or teen is sexting to people that they don't know, or being encouraged to send um, images to people in exchange for, if you send this, I'll do this for you. This high risk interaction is the biggest concern for parents these days. And again, something that we've really got to keep communicating to young people. And often one that parents are most concerned about, but funny enough, is the one that seems to have the least longer term impact, is cyberbullying. At the moment, research is indicating that it's probably sort of 17% of young people per month would say that they've experienced some form of cyberbullying. And often it's more girls than boys. It's seen as being more popular online cyberbullying because you can have that anonymity, people not knowing who is perpetrating the bullying, and that can encourage more cruelty. But like I said earlier, at the moment, it doesn't seem to be a significant amount, i.e. it's not going into the 20s or 30%, it's 17% per month, which is still concerning for the young person that's experiencing that cyberbullying. And again, cyberbullying can be quite closely linked to depression, understandably, and is often targeted to amongst vulnerable young people. And the huge concern for us at the moment is criminal stroke child exploitation. And particularly in this context, we're thinking about the online format. So often the concerns that I've mentioned earlier, such as the bullying, sexting, pornography, all these can be used, and gaming can be used as a form of encouraging and engaging with young people online. So it's really important that parents have an awareness of who their young people are talking to, whether it's on the gaming console, whether it's on social media, being really aware of the connections that they're having online. And then looking out for some of the signs. So one of the common signs that parents have spoken to me about are talking about the young people speaking to older people online, or children that they don't necessarily know online. So as I said, usually when they're younger, it's more likely that they will be gaming or connecting with friends from school, or peers or relatives that they know. As they get older, they're more confident approaching different people or being approached from others online. And this, for us, is a concern that we will often need to look out for. Are they starting to talk about gaining gifts or receiving money online? Do they seem to become a bit more withdrawn and secretive? So young people will often show us signs through their behavior, and we really need to be open to recognizing that and observing what's going on for them, and seeking support as soon as you can. Often one of the things that comes up with criminal exploitation as well is you've been very skilled at giving your child a phone, being careful, putting all the protections on that phone. However, you suddenly realize that they have another phone that you didn't realize they'd had. And again, they weren't clear about when they got that phone, how they got it, etc. This is, again, another telltale sign. So it's really important that you're clear about seeking support with this. So I hope I haven't completely scared you about technology and screen time and gaming. But what I want to do is offer some healthy solutions for you as well. So the first one is to know that you aren't alone. And I'm sure there's lots of parents nodding here and knowing that they're experiencing this, but they're not alone in experiencing some of the things that we've spoken about earlier, that I've spoken about earlier. I would say if I had to go down and think about the key point from all of these, it would really be about building that connection and keeping that connection with your young person and talking to them. No matter how difficult it is or how uncomfortable you feel about talking about some of these topics, it really is better as a preventer. So really do talk to them and communicate with them. And again, seek support if you're not sure of how to say it or what to say or when to say it. Technology really, really, really shouldn't be in the bedroom, and this is for a range of reasons. But if you do have technology in the bedroom, really consider now if you could think about restructuring and taking it out of their bedrooms and back into main areas of the home. This is for a few reasons. When your young person is online, it's helpful that you are around, so you can just have a helpful look in and see what they are doing, who they're connecting with. And they're familiar with you being around and being able to ask questions. And more importantly, the people that they're online with know that you're around and can ask questions as well. Not only that, but it's really important for sleep and sleep health that you're encouraging your young person to have a really good sleep routine. Because one of the clear indicators of concern for mental health is a lack of sleep and a lack of rest, particularly for teens. So take that into consideration when thinking about the solutions to the concerns that we've raised previously. Modeling is a huge one. I do it, lots of parents do it. We spend a lot of time on our phones, but being aware that when you are spending time on your phone, your young person is modeling that and seeing that. So really, we've got to be mindful about what we do as well. And again, seeking support. If there's anything that you are concerned about, go to the school. There's often a safeguarding lead. There was always a safeguarding lead at school, or the Senko if your child has special educational needs, or pastoral care at school. Seek support if you're unsure at any level, at any time. Another question that's come up is about addiction. And is your young person addicted to gaming or screen time? I know some of the parents will be nodding again at all of the perhaps the gaming consoles and the gaming apps. But what is gaming addiction? There are often risk factors that are precursors to gaming addiction, and it's often, did that come first? Were they depressed first, or did that come after gaming? And what we're finding as professionals now is often gaming will be used as a mechanism to support their mental health. So they're feeling stressed, so we'll go towards gaming, for example, or feeling depressed, and we'll go towards gaming. So almost using it as a as a way of supporting their needs. So really, that's something cool that we need to consider. Are there underlying needs that the young person has that have not been addressed? And really what I want to do here is also to highlight that even though the word gaming addiction and internet gaming disorder has been used more and more frequently now, again, it's a very, very small percentage of young people that would actually fulfill the criteria. And here is the criteria for gaming addiction. Preoccupation, what we mean by that is spending endless hours on screen, not wanting to take part in any of their daily activities anymore, including attending school, going to college, um, being involved at home, taking part in any activity that isn't gaming. So showing an intolerance for anything that doesn't involve a game. Even when you try to encourage them to stop, or they indeed want to stop, they find it almost impossible to. And despite knowing that it's a problem, they're really struggling to pause or stop with gaming as well. So for all of these areas, for all of these criteria would need to be shown over a 12-month period to be indicating a gaming addiction. But again, what I'd like to say is often when I have parents that will come to me concerned about their young person, when we really work through it, it's a gaming behavior issue rather than a gaming addiction. And so something that can often be worked through a range of strategies that they can use at home. And what do we do? What are the strategies? Again, it's building that connection. So sometimes I encourage parents to take part in the gaming with their young person. So they're engaging with them and gaining an understanding of what is this excitement about this game. So they're really gaining this understanding of what it is, what their young person is enjoying from it. And so they can really think about, well, if this is what they're enjoying online, I do understand it, but what can we do to transition some of that enjoyment to offline? And really finding out what that gaming means to that young person. So do you remember earlier, and I was speaking about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Is it self-esteem building for them? Are they feeling that they can achieve so much online and very little offline? Are there ways that you can encourage them to support that outside? Maybe there are other activities that you could encourage them to to gain outside of the house. Taekwondo, football, violin, something that's completely different and opposite to being at home all the time and online. So really what you're wanting to do is the meaning that they're getting online, try and find ways of getting that meaning offline. And again, seeking support from psychologists like myself or others that can support you with developing those strategies so they are getting outside and finding alternatives to gaming. As I said earlier, focusing on the conditions as well. So some parents will come to me and we'll have discussions and we'll determine that there is an underlying need that the young person has been using gaming as a coping mechanism for. So it might well be that they have an undiagnosed issue that actually needs to be explored a little bit further. And finally, what I often say to parents is be realistic. Be realistic about your approach. It will take time for them to engage. So be realistic about that. Don't think that a change will occur immediately. And sleep, 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 like I said earlier, is so important. And having a good sleep timetable is really, really helpful in encouraging a better gaming relationship. And again, modeling. So we go to the big one of how to keep your child safe online. It's firstly important, as we've spoken about earlier, to know what they're doing online. And there's constantly changing apps, aren't there? There's Snapchat, Instagram, and so many others. I was surprised looking at statistics just to see that 75% of teens now are on Snapchat, 67% on TikTok. And so they're engaging in online interactions for a long time, for the majority of their days, and also having video chats. The most important thing about engaging with your child and ensuring that they are safe online is, again, I know I've said it several times before, but communicating with them. And if you can start this communication before they even get the app, it's really important to do that, because then you can set the boundaries, can't you, around what they can do and can't do online. Really consider their age and maturity. So often I'll have parents that will come and we'll be discussing these apps, or the fact that their young person's online. But have they considered the age range and the age guidance for them? So, for example, if the age range is 13 plus and your young person's 10, is it appropriate that they're on the app at the moment? So really consider that. Parents will often say to me, do you know of a particular monitoring software or parental control that I can use? And I'll often say to them, it's really not one size fits all. You've really got to seek out the best app or monitoring software, or parenting control for your child. So it really sometimes it's trial and error. But I often say as well, the best parenting control that you can have is not an app, it's you. It's you spending that time connecting and communicating with your young person and engaging with them, so they don't feel that you're this archaic person that doesn't know at all what they're engaging with and what's happening online. Indeed, I encourage parents to be a friend with their child on their social media. Be linked into all of their, or as many of their apps as you can online. Know all of their passwords. And indeed, set their accounts up with them, so you know exactly what they're doing online. I also say to parents and encourage phone app monitoring. So you literally have their phone and you're able to monitor it. And you say to them that's one of the rules for them having a mobile phone, that they know that every so often you'll know their password, enter their phone, and check all of the apps. Because one of the concerns is our young people may well have apps online that we're not aware of. They can have camouflaged apps. So it looks like a guitar tuning app. And then when you press and click onto it, it's hiding a range of different apps underneath. So really get familiar with their phones and say to them, that's part of the rule, that's part of the engagement, is that I will know what you're doing online and I will engage with you, not in a threatening way, but a way of understanding and supporting them and monitoring them. Because what we're really trying to do is develop your young person's ability to engage on their own online and know what safe interaction is online. And the best way to do that is by modeling it and supporting them with these discussions as soon as you can. So again, we're talking about the parental controls here, and there will be some tech absolute no's that you will say to them, these are no's. Making explicit or nude pictures or photos online. Having location settings on, or providing or giving others their location settings. No changing of passwords. So if they've engaged with an app, you know all of those passwords, and no changing of those passwords. And encourage them to discuss the do's and don'ts of posting. We've spoken previously about cyberbullying. We don't want our child to be a victim of cyberbullying, and neither do we want them to be a perpetrator. And they may well be inadvertently being the perpetrator of cyberbullying without even realizing. So really, we're talking about the quality of posting and saying to them, what I say to young people is, if you wouldn't want your teacher to hear of it, the adult around you, the parent around you to hear of it, if it's something that you would be concerned of others hearing, don't post it. Again, putting on new apps on their phone, that's a no-no without discussing it with their parent first. So all of those were the real boundaries that I encourage parents to really instill before, if you can, get in technology, but certainly as soon as you can afterwards. One of the topics that come up often is about a digital detox. Parents come to me really at the end of their tether and often asking, should I just switch it all off? Is it time to just have a digital detox? take all the screens away, take the games away, and just stop. I personally feel that there are times that you might want to detox, but integrate that into your family life and really be realistic about that. Take a look at all of your online journeys, yourself as parents and your children's. Is it concerning? Are they spending 5, 6 hours a day online? Are you concerned about the content of what they're doing? Are you concerned about your content? Do you feel that your young person is in control of their ability to say, right, I'm stopping now and I'm moving away from the technology? Or do you think it's completely taken over their lives? Do you personally feel overwhelmed by the thought of a detox? And if you do, that again is concerning, isn't it? Because if you're worried that you wouldn't be able to cope without technology for a day or 2 days, maybe it's time to have a detox then as well. And would a detox be a realistic step for you? Would that be something that you would find helpful? Or would it be something that you would find really, really difficult to take part in? If it's something that you're going to find really, really difficult to take part in, think about planning it in, and maybe give yourself 3 months ahead where you think about a day that you'll all come off technology for that day. So make a detox realistic. I wouldn't say to never do a detox. I think it can be a helpful tool, but with pre-warning and being organized so all of the family are aware of when it's going to occur and how it's going to occur and for how long. So I really think it's important that we engage with the family, with your young person, when you're thinking about all aspects of technology. Okay. But is it all bad? Sometimes technology, as we know, isn't the worst thing, is it? You know, when we're thinking about gaming, for example, it can be helpful for your young person that they're receiving that instant feedback. It does give a happy feeling, all within balance. It can aid social interaction, as we've spoken about earlier, and helping your young person to develop their own social competence as well. So it can support all of these things. But again, when it's measured and within balance. It can bring exciting new challenges and rewards, and it can be really helpful to know that they can engage with their friends, not only in the face-to-face forum, but also online. And research has indicated that it can enhance thought processes. It can encourage better focus and attention online on screens. And the eye movement for reading, some research has indicated the rapid eye movement that you're using within gaming can support that. So would I say that technology is all bad? Not at all. Is it going to be with us for the foreseeable future and forever? Yes, it will. And so what do we need to do as parents? We need to be engaged with it, connect with it, and support our young people as much as possible. It's been my pleasure today to spend this lunch and learn time with brilliant parents. Here are my contact details. Please feel free to connect with me. Thank you.
Wow, Michelle, that was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so, so much. There were so many nuggets there. I don't know where to begin. I guess the key thing that came across for me was that we are the best parenting control, i.e. us, the parents. That came across loud and clear. And also our role, as you say, is to help empower our children so that they make the right choices. We've gone a little bit over time. Perhaps I could ask Sarah to come in and just see if we've got 10 questions I can see there. We're not going to get through 10 questions, but maybe you'd like to just pick one out, Sarah.
Yeah, sure. I think one question and then we'll probably go to the poll. I think we've got about 15 questions that, as always, will be available on the Q&A video that will go out within the next couple of weeks. A lot of people have asked if this will be going out, and the recording is available, as are all our last ones on YouTube. So we'll go straight to this one question here. What about children who don't listen to TC I'm not sure what that is. Do you know what that is, Michelle? Time frame and having no care about the consequences. Is it terms and conditions, or?
It might be terms and conditions. Again, it's taking the time. This might be a very long process. It's not going to be immediate, but what we know is consistency works. So engage with them, take the time. It might not be the first week, it might take 6 months, but if you are solidly consistent with your young person, it's more than likely that they will engage when they know that there's going to be no change.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so we will go to the poll. So much information today, and we really, really value your opinions. And so please, if you're here, please give us some feedback on how the session has been for you today. That really helps us inform for future webinars. Okay, thank you everybody for responding. It's really good to see that everybody has found this session of benefit, be it good or excellent. Everybody seems to have got something out of today. And 95% of you feel that you've been empowered to support your teenagers' well-being regarding the digital world, which is a really great outcome. It looks like we've had a few more male participants today. However, as always, we're always trying to encourage more dads along. Many of you are parents, some of you Hillingdon employees, and really, really good to see that 97% of you would be interested in another Lunch and Learn webinar. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Michelle. And I'll pass back to Maeve.
Thank you, Sarah. So as Sarah said, I hope that you found today's webinar really beneficial. As I mentioned earlier, we will be circulating the answers. We will take all of your questions to Michelle and she will answer all of them, and we will be circulating the answers to you. These webinars are actually, I think this is the 5th one now that we've done. They're actually part of our Parent Champion program. Research has shown that parents whose children are at risk of exploitation prefer to be supported by befrienders, volunteers from the community. So if you feel that that's a role that you would like to take part in, please do contact Sarah or myself. We're particularly looking for more dads to take part in this program. We have 2 events taking place next week, half term. The first one is going to be at the Hayes Muslim Centre. It will be live streamed in case you can't attend. And that's going to be discussing the complexities of the youth culture. So this is for any parent who wants to know a little bit more about why do our children get involved sometimes with the law, and what can we do to safeguard and protect them from going down that route. And that's on the 14th of February, next week, Tuesday, at the Hayes Muslim Centre. We also have another webinar on the Wednesday, the 15th. That'll be a Zoom webinar similar to this, looking at raising competent teenagers. And that's about how can we best encourage our teenagers in the school setting. And I'll be delivering that one. All of the details will be sent to you. They'll also be coming up on the screen fairly shortly. We also have a Parenting Apart program. So if you or anyone you know is going through separation or divorce, or just having some conflict at home that is affecting your parenting, again, please get in contact with us and we can give you some support in that area, particularly if you live in the Hillingdon borough. And finally, we have our Triple P structured parenting support programs, and the summer term schedule will be advertised in the near future. So again, if you'd like to attend any of those classes, which are held in primary and secondary schools in the borough, do please get in contact. So that just leaves me to once again thank Michelle, to thank yourself, the viewers, and to thank Hillingdon Council for putting on these webinars, which we really can see they're really adding value to the parents. So do feel free to go onto our YouTube channel if you'd like to look at previous webinars. And with that said, we very much look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you very much.